Mark Zuckerberg and Erica Albright are conversing in a bar in the fall of 2003. They talk about Mark's SATs and his obsession with the final clubs at Harvard University and their exclusivity. Erica asks him which club is the easiest to get into, and Mark feels offended. He then dismisses her by saying she'll need to be more supportive, and if he does join a club, she'll get the chance to meet people she normally wouldn't get to because she attends a less esteemed university. He later goes on to say that she doesn't need to study much since she's from Boston University. She breaks up with him because she feels insulted. Mark returns to his dorm, gets drunk, and denigrates Erica in his online blog post. Meanwhile, he hacks into 7 different Harvard houses' Facebook accounts, which contain pictures and videos of students. He downloads their images and creates FaceMash, a website where people get to pick between 2 girls based on their attractiveness. In the meantime, Harvard's opulent and conspicuous Phoenix Club hosts its first party of the fall semester. A friend of Mark's named Eduardo Severin stops by to check up on him after reading about his breakup through the blog. Mark asks for the algorithm Eduardo formulated for ranking chess players, as it would help him fully function FaceMash. The website starts working and they send it to a bunch of people who then forward it to others. Erica reads the blog post Mark wrote about her. She feels belittled and brokenhearted. The website's comparison of female students severely degrades them. Due to the website's excessive traffic and potential legal issues, Eduardo suggests shutting it down. The network is eventually shut down by Harvard officials who finally catch up. Cut forward to 2009, Eduardo and Mark are involved in a lawsuit. Mark is angry that Erica's testimony was used against him. In 2003, when Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss were Harvard students, they learn about a sophomore, Mark, who built a website using the personal information of students from 7 different houses, and finds it impressive that in one night there was an activity of 22,000 page requests. The Winklevoss twins and Mark are involved in a legal dispute in 2008. In a 2003 administrative board hearing, Mark is charged with several offenses like willful security breaches, copyright violations, and personal privacy violations by developing FaceMash. He is also accused of breaking university rules on distributing digitized images. Mark apologizes to the women who may have been insulted and later goes on to say that he deserves some recognition from the board for pointing out gaping holes in the system. Undoubtedly, he was placed on academic probation for 6 months. The Winklevoss twins approach Mark and he accompanies them to the Porcellian, their final club. They introduce Mark to Divya Narendra and the group talks with Mark about their concepts for launching a website called Harvard Connection, which would be exclusive only to Harvard students. They need a capable programmer to build it, and they want Mark to collaborate with them. Mark agrees to help them. Mark claims he can't recall what he said to them during the lawsuit meeting when he was asked to collaborate with the Winklevoss twins. Mark shared the idea of Facebook with Eduardo at a party. Mark is informed by Eduardo at the gathering that the Phoenix Club has contacted him, the club Mark genuinely wished to join. Mark proposes his idea of creating a social network that incorporates college life and requests Eduardo's investment of $1,000 because he needs financial assistance. Mark will receive 70% of the profit, and Eduardo will receive 30%. Eduardo was on board with the idea and Mark appoints him as CFO. During the legal proceeding, Eduardo is questioned regarding his knowledge of Mark's agreement with the Winklevoss twins. He was aware that Mark had declined their offer to work for them because he felt it was not worth his while. The Winklevoss twins were duped by Mark, who continued to use justifications for not showing up for meetings. He deceived them into believing that he was developing Harvard Connection while actually he was developing Facebook. The Winklevoss twins are suing Mark, alleging he stole their idea. However, Mark claims that he had never used their code. Back in 2004, Dustin Moskovitz, a fellow student, approaches Mark in class hoping to get information on a girl he is interested in and asks about her relationship status. This sparks an idea in Mark and he sprints back to his apartment. According to him, this is how individuals will connect and locate the person they are interested in online. Facebook is currently functioning as intended. Mark convinces Eduardo into giving him the email IDs of the Phoenix Club members and later sends them the link as they have connections. Divya learns about Mark's website and storms toward the Winklevoss twins, letting them know Mark stole their idea. They are distraught and call their attorneys, who then advises them to send a cease and desist letter to Mark. Mark and Eduardo attend a seminar by Bill Gates and meet Christy and Alice, who later invites the guys out for drinks. That evening, Mark and Eduardo talk about generating revenue from the site. Since advertisements are boring and it might detract the site's image, Mark doesn't want to monetize just yet. While they are having a discussion, Eduardo discovers the intellectual property theft cease and desist letter from the Winklevoss twins addressed to Mark and is concerned about it. The lawsuit meeting reveals that Mark ignored the Winklevoss twins and Divya for 6 weeks, despite his denial. With Christy and Alice, Mark and Eduardo have fun at a club. Mark proceeds toward Erica after spotting her at the club. They have a heated conversation as Erica criticizes him for publicly humiliating her. Right after this conversation, Mark wants to expand Facebook and include Yale and Columbia. Eduardo suggests including Stanford as well. The Winklevoss twins and Divya talk about how Mark would be breaking the law if he expanded other states through the network. They figure that he is violating the Harvard law that one student cannot steal from another as stated in the Harvard Student Handbook. The twins decide to speak with the university president. Sean Parker, an entrepreneur from California, discovers Facebook in the process of checking his email and is fascinated by it. The Winklevoss twins meet the president of Harvard. However, he suggests they find a new project to work on rather than taking their concern about intellectual property theft seriously. During their spring break, Eduardo and Mark travel to New York for meetings set up by Eduardo. Mark shows a lack of seriousness and tries to sabotage the meetings. The only meeting he is excited about is the one with Sean Parker. Eduardo isn't fully on board for meeting Sean Parker, who has a bad reputation. Eduardo does not like the fact that Sean is 20 minutes late and considers him a wild card. When questioned about it during the lawsuit meeting, Eduardo recalled that Sean had informed them of his endeavors, which included a music label called Napster that ended in bankruptcy and Rolodex, out of which he got thrown out. Sean agreed with Mark regarding no monetization on Facebook, disregarding Eduardo's idea and neglected him throughout the meeting. Sean predicted that their business might reach a valuation of $1 billion and that Mark should visit California. In the courtroom, it is discussed that in 2004, Mark received 65% of the shares and Eduardo received 30% and 5% for Dustin, their coder friend from back in university. The prosecutor questions Eduardo on whether he did anything to jeopardize the company name and brings up a case of animal cruelty. Eduardo gets enraged and disappointed and recalls that he was supposed to bring around a chicken with him at all times by the Phoenix Club, and at one point he was accused of force-feeding his pet chicken. Eduardo agrees that Mark needed more money and adds that having more servers will be beneficial. Mark informs him that he is going to hire new interns and rent a house in California. Mark is adamant about going to California for the summer, but Eduardo doesn't concur with him. Meanwhile, they hit 150,000 members. Eduardo discovers a few students hacking under a lot of pressure while being supervised by Mark for selecting the best interns. He tells Mark that he used $18,000 to open a bank account. Eduardo later claims that he did this to be a team player and not get left out. He was to generate interest from advertisers in New York while Mark will move to California, and the interns would work alongside him. Mark and the rest of the group relocate to California, and he comes to learn that Sean lives across the street. Sean learns that Eduardo did not assist Mark to California, and when asked, Mark lets him know that Eduardo got an internship. Sean and Mark discuss business while out at a club. Sean promises to spread Facebook across 2 continents. Mark offers to let Sean live with him after learning that he lacks a place to stay. Meanwhile, the Winklevoss twins are participating in the Henley Royal Regatta. They fall short and are devastated. They learn that Facebook is available in Cambridge, Oxford, and the London School of Economics, which enrages them even more. The twins and Divya finally agree to sue Mark in federal court. When Eduardo arrives in California, drenched in rain, he sees Sean, who is on the phone. He was supposed to be picked up by Mark at the airport an hour ago, but he never showed up. When Eduardo learns that Sean set up a meeting with Peter Thiel, he is not pleased. Eduardo asks for a moment alone with Mark. Mark asks about the internship and his girlfriend, Christy. A disappointed and annoyed Eduardo reminds Mark that he left the internship on the first day and lets him know that Christy is not the ideal girlfriend. Mark advises him to blend in and become a part of the action rather than risk getting left behind. An annoyed and pissed off Eduardo freezes the bank account he created for Facebook. The meeting with Peter Thiel is fruitful since Mark and Sean receive an investment of $500,000. Christy approaches Eduardo back in his apartment and confronts him for not letting her know of his arrival. Meanwhile, Mark calls Eduardo about the bank account being frozen and Facebook being at risk, trying to point out to him that it cannot crash, and that's what makes Facebook different from other sites. Christy sets fire to the gift Eduardo bought for her whilst he is on the phone with Mark. Eduardo quickly tries to extinguish the fire while simultaneously talking with Mark. He admits to freezing the account just so that he could have Mark's attention. Mark informs him of the Peter Thiel investment and requests him to visit San Francisco as he needs his CFO back. Eduardo is happy to hear that and promises to arrive while at the same time breaking up with Christy. He signs the documents after meeting with the firm's attorneys. His ownership has increased to 34.4%. It is revealed in the lawsuit proceedings that Eduardo was unaware he was signing his death certificate. He stated that Mark notified him that he wouldn't be coming back for a semester and instructed him to come back at the end of the year for the party Peter Thiel would be throwing when Facebook hits 1 million members. Eduardo receives an email from Mark in late November regarding the 1,000th member party and how Mark and Sean's prank requires them to have a business meeting securing a huge investment offer from Case Equity. Eduardo travels to the brand new Facebook office in California. When he learns that his shares have been diluted, he is left feeling totally betrayed and furious. He declares fiercely to Mark that he'll be coming back for everything and he better lawyer up. Sean and Mark celebrate reaching 1 million subscribers after Eduardo departs. Sean is out having fun with some of the interns, and while they are indulging in illegal activities, the cops arrive. The situation becomes complicated when there is an underage intern involved. Sean tries to blame it on Eduardo and their other competitors, but Mark comes to the conclusion that Sean is ultimately unreliable. A young defense attorney named Marilyn Delpy and Mark has a conversation. She informs him that a settlement agreement will eventually be received, and that he will have to pay extra because of the jury's dissatisfaction with previous events in his life and his general attitude. Just as she is about to leave, she lets him know that he is not a bad person but is trying so hard to become one. She departs, leaving Mark all by himself. He sends her a request on Facebook and keeps hitting refresh whilst aimlessly thinking. It is later revealed that the Winklevoss twins received a settlement of $65 million and signed a confidentiality agreement. Additionally, Eduardo was compensated and had his name brought back on the Facebook masthead. Facebook currently has over 500 million members and continues to fly high. Mark Zuckerberg is the youngest billionaire in the world.